Good evening. Welcome to Athens City Council. Tonight is Monday, October 3rd, 2011. This evening, City Council will be meeting in a regular session, but first we have a public hearing to discuss the Hickory Street Planned Unit Development. A public hearing is simply that. It's an opportunity for City Council and the administration to take statements and input from any member of the public wishing to comment on the planned unit development that is proposed for Hickory Street. Mayor Weil, any comments?
I could lead it off a little bit, some background. First of all, there's a sign sheet going around. To make a public hearing, we have to have some public included, and that's you guys, or gals. This is
whether you're planning on making a comment or not, we ask that you do sign the sheet to show that we did a little bit. Thank you.
Okay.
Go on, Paul.
This is, as you stated, Mr. Klein's Hickory Street Planned Unit Development. This is behind the C&E on Richland Avenue. It is in an R1. It is under 2 acres, so that requires a variance for that as a planned unit development. It is 3 lots that he's combined. He plans to put 3 buildings into it, into the 3 lots. One lot, of course, will be actually the entire parking area that's already been paved. It's an old parking area that was there previously. He's going to utilize that for the majority of the parking. Some of the parking will be actually an entrance into the bottom part, the house closest to Hickory Street entrance. Again, it will end up to be 12 bedrooms total with 3 buildings. And the only variance...
5, is it? Somewhere around there?
Right.
Okay. And Mr. Klein is here to add anything if need be. The Planning Commission approved it. It is in a zone it's in the R1 zone that abuts AB3. The hillside that goes straight up behind Canterbury is deemed pretty much a good buffer because it is pretty much vertical. So that's where we are. If there's questions, I guess it's for the public to decide.
Is there anyone from the public wishing to make any comments? Is there anyone from council wishing to make any comments? Mr. Klein, we do have a few, but that's how I travel going to and from work every day, and I look at the property quite a bit, and I was watching the demolition of what had been there before, and I think it's going to be a very good use of the kind of real estate that has the challenge that you faced looking at the back of C&E, so I think it's a good use. Member Sands.
Oh, I think so too. I am in favor of this use. I just wanted to say this is located in an R1 zone, and I'd really like to see maybe some language put into the PUD ordinance that would require some extra steps or something when a PUD was planned to be located in R1, because we're introducing some maybe not multifamily housing, but on the lot it would be multifamily, and so we need to be careful. But in this case, I do believe that the location works well for this designation.
I would point out this is, if you remember, I think it was 2006 or 4. I forget exactly the date, that the planning and development language was moved from the zoning code into the subdivision regs, which really makes it and remember, Planning Commission actually has purview in Title 23, and I think this is Title 27 if my memory is correct. The subdivision regs can be modified by council at a drop of hat. Just do it as planning and development. I understand what you're saying, because really I think the concept at the time was that anything over 2 acres, we were talking about 2 acres plus, would kind of limit where you could drop it in terms of zones.
But we're almost regularly
doing lot size.
Varying the lot size.
And to tell you the truth, I think when I was sitting in the audience when this was introduced, I had visions of this dropping into my neighborhood and was concerned with the only requirement being a lot size. So I was concerned at that time. I think we look at it case by case and as it goes along here. I think this would be the 3rd one we've actually had a variance for, maybe the 4th one over the life of that PUD plan. I think there was one in Colson. I'm trying to remember. I think there's one in Foster. And there's another one I'm forgetting, but this one is be about the 4th, I believe.
Mill Iron.
Mill Iron
Mill
is
Iron.
one I
Real
was...
Line, yes,
other
you're
one,
right,
yeah.
there it goes. Much newer than I should remember that. So you can see that there are times where it's appropriate and times where it isn't. If you think there should be extra hoops to jump to go through an R2 or a 1, that's something we should discuss, yes. Probably at a planning development committee. And what kind of hoops do you want? That's the question.
I don't necessarily know.
Yeah, we'll look into it.
Member Nicely?
Well, I echo the comments. I too, I'm an at-large council person, but live in the South End and travel on Hickory and Mulligan, and think that this is an improvement to the property, and I think it will work well in close proximity to town and the bus line, and so I think it is an improvement. I would also echo the support for us, through the planning committee, to look at some kind of regulations, though, for when a PUD does come into an R1 zone, and develop some guidelines on that, I think, language.
Any other comments? Seeing none, and seeing that we have about 20 minutes before our regular session of council, we'll see you folks back here in about 20 minutes. Welcome back to Athens City Council. Again, it's Monday, October 3rd, 2011. This evening, City Council is meeting in regular session. We do have a quorum with all members of council present. Next item on our agenda is disposition of the meeting minutes from the regular session held September 19th, 2011. Do I have a motion to accept?
I motion to accept the meeting.
Second?
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The meeting minutes have been accepted. Under communications, we have several items. The first, I'd like to read a letter from David Yost, Auditor of State. It's addressed to Kathy Heck, the City Auditor for the City of Athens. Congratulations. Based upon your recently completed financial audit, it gives me great pleasure to inform you that the City of Athens has received the Auditor of State Award. Clean and accurate record keeping are the foundation for good government, and the taxpayers can take pride in your commitment to accountability. The Auditor of State Award is given to those entities that file timely reports in accordance with GAAP, as well as receive a clean audit report. The clean audit report means that your financial audit did not contain findings for recovery, material citations, material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, single audit findings, or any question cost. Congratulations again on receiving the Auditor of State Award. My office looks forward to continuing to work with you to ensure clean, accountable, and efficient government for all Ohioans. Sincerely, David Yost, Auditor of State. Congratulations, Kathy. That's well done.
Thank you.
We're very pleased with that. Watching the audits for 22 years now, I know that yours has been clean for quite a few years, and that's no small, quite attention to detail. Next item, Member Nisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have two appointments to two different bodies, the city, that were mentioned by the mayor last week. The first one, the mayor is requesting to accept the recommendation by Dr. Gaskell for the appointment of Mr. Robert Fry to serve on the City County Health Board. And he's lived in Athens all of his life and has been affiliated with clinical aspects of health in our city and county. So I'd like to make a motion to confirm that nomination.
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Fry.
The second appointment is for the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the mayor is recommending the reappointment of Lisa Carson as an alternate and Joan Kronansky as regular representative of the board. And they would have both indicated a willingness to serve another term. So I'd like to move for their recommendation, or accept their nomination.
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion? Mayor Weil.
I would like to take time to thank all the citizens who serve on these boards. It usually chews up at least one night a month, as well as sometimes they have to take a lot of input or even grief sometimes. and they serve for the well, the goodness of the community.
I don't think we often enough thank the people that do serve our city well, and we're so fortunate to have such qualified people serve in these roles also. Any other discussion? All those in favor of accepting the nominees?
Aye.
Opposed? We'll have the clerk send along our congratulations and our appreciation. Two other quick items. One from the Athens City Planning Commission. On September 21st, the Athens City Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend to the City Council make changes to the city sign, to Athens City Code Chapter 23.03.13, the sign regulations, and those are attached here, so we will be dealing with those. And also a quick notice of public hearing that Athens City Council will hold a public hearing to address the changing of the definition of parking area to include bicycles and adding a new table for all-street bicycle parking requirements. That public hearing will be 7 p.m. Monday, October 17th this year in council chambers here. Are there any other communications anyone wishes to share? Reports and communications from other elected officials. Mayor Weil.
About three different things. One is this next Saturday, there's a NAMI and Gathering Place is going to have the Walk the Walk. This is for mental health awareness. It's a fundraiser as well as an outreach for the community. It starts at 10 at the courthouse, and I believe it goes for long or short walks all the way to the Ridges, just so you know. The other one, of course, we're having a planning commission this Wednesday at 12 o'clock. We're going to be discussing in communications, not a case, but we're look into more of our rezoning request for the north side of East State Street that was brought forth almost about 60 days ago. And last, of course, I'm sure you've been receiving emails concerning the sale from the Bureau of Land Management for some parcels, 3,000 acres in Wayne National Forest up near Nelsonville. We have some concerns about that and we'll probably write a letter expressing those concerns. The deadline is October 7th. Mostly because if you look at the parcels, it's right next to our riparian area of the Hocking River, and we are upstream. I had a conversation with Joe Shea, the city manager, and they're near his water wells. I've not had a conversation with the Burr Oak Water Division, which is also using the same aquifer in general. So there is some concern of what the future will be in terms of mine leases and wells leases and how well they'll be done. I think the sale goes on December 7th, I believe, in Virginia someplace. So it's up for sale.
Okay.
So we've got some parcels out there, some in Perry County as well as Gallia, but the three parcels that are in Athens County are the main concern for us.
Questions or comments for the mayor? City Auditor Kathy Hecht.
No report.
City Law Director Patrick Lang. No report. Okay, let's move on to ordinances then. Ordinance 9311 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Board of Athens County Commissioners for the purpose of obtaining the services of the Public Defender's Office for the period from January 1, 2011 through December 31, 2011, and declaring an emergency. Member Bain.
Mr. President, move adoption of 9311.
Second.
9311 is an ordinance we've done for several decades. In the past, I remember people trying to reduce the amount of it, and it's pretty much part of our responsibility as a municipal court. As we sponsor the municipal court, fund it as part of our budget. This is one of our obligations under that. It is a fairly good-sized amount of money compared to what it was when I started, but that was a long time ago. And so basically, move it forward. I think it's a little bit strange, as you notice. You say, what are you doing? January 1st, 2011 through December 31st. I think that's pretty common. End of the year, we're doing the agreement, the services. And I'm assuming it will turn over for next year the same way.
Other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 9311 has been adopted. Moving on to ordinances for second reading. Ordinance 9811 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into a lease agreement with the Athens County Agricultural Society and declaring an emergency. Member Nisley. Oh, I'm sorry, second reading. I was trying to sign other legislation, thought maybe I'd get you to talk. On to ordinances for first reading. Ordinance 111 is an ordinance authorizing design engineering of the wastewater treatment plant improvements and authorizing an interfund transfer. This is project number 248. Member Bain.
Mr. President, 111 is an ordinance you discussed last week when I was in Pittsburgh, and you see the amount coming from the debt fund to the sewer fund. That's where the $800,000 will be expended for the potential cost of wastewater treatment plant design. That's another one that's gone up. Anyway, we're down a bit from what it could be, but it will not. This is for those wastewater treatment plant improvements that we've talked about. That would be replacing the old settling beds with new, round, less stinky appurtenances, and also going from chlorine to ultraviolet disinfection, which is a good move. So the east end should be freer of both the stench and the potential danger from chlorine, which is it's a danger. It's always there. It's a risk. So that's what we're doing here. It's going to be done long after I'm gone, and my name won't be on it, but there it is. I don't care. Anyway, I remember.
Dedicate it to you.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's really appropriate.
The council member Bain wastewater treatment sewage disposal plant would be more than a fitting memorial.
Clarifying, yeah, I'm good at clarifying.
It's all in the political spin of it, isn't it? Well, it's many times that politicians' trees that they plant, they're not around to enjoy the shade.
It's true.
Well,
Remember Weil.
Remember a while.
Yeah.
A lot of throwback.
Yeah.
Again, this is part of the upgrade we've discussed before. Andy came in front of you earlier this year about anywhere between 12 to 14 million. I know you've already discussed raising the rates for this to pay for it, and this is, again, an essential upgrade for improving our capacity as well as our efficiency.
12 to 14 million, I thought it was 10 to...
I thought it was 12, but I'm assuming it's going to...
Big sale time.
Yeah,
And all of this is before the cost overruns, so
I hope not.
Oh, we hope not.
Again, it's mostly on the wet side, I think is what Nancy called, which is really the sludge tanks, this clarifies the settling pools. And the other side of it, when you're trying to purify it afterwards, so after everything's been done, we have to add chlorine, then we have to take it out with chemical means. So it'll save two processes right there going with the UV. And this is, again, we're working towards design, and that's all this is really at this point.
And we're also going to clean up some hazardous conditions for our workers, doing things that I wouldn't want to do myself. So it'll all be automated.
Yeah, it has a different technology that's years old and therefore needs to be upgraded.
1930s.
other comments? On to ordinance 10111, an ordinance authorizing design engineering of the Joneswood, Riverview, and Terrace water line replacement and other distribution system improvements. Again, Member Bain.
Mr. President, 10111, I believe Christine talked about last week. We have a potential to get some money to support this. Joneswood, Riverview, Terrace Drive is an area that we have looked at in the past to repair the water lines, and that is what we'll accomplish. You'll notice that there's some language in here that says other distribution system improvements. Again, as part of this money that we may get from external sources, as rare as that is, will be to connect with, of course, a backflow protection, our system with the system that serves the water project out on the far east end. So that's another component of this.
Any other comments? Ordinance 10211 is an ordinance levying special assessments for sidewalk improvements associated with the Mill Street project and declaring an emergency. Member Bainey.
102, do we need to suspend on this? No? Okay. 102 is the continuation of a procedure that we started months ago. Now we're going to be working on, as you can see, the actual levying process where the sidewalk improvements that we've watched during the summer being made, the cost of those will be put on the duplicates of people who ask for that. I believe that's what's going on. So the 26th day of September are now in file. Those are the $27,122.83 are those are on file, and I don't think there are going to be any surprises, and we're happy to have this great new sidewalk down on Mill Street, not just down, on Mill Street. And they have, the people who had their sidewalks repaired, who chose this option rather than contracting with an outside entity, will either pay in cash or will be working on this over a period of time at a relatively low interest rate until they do take care of the payment of it. And that's basically what we're doing in 10211.
Other comments? Mayor Weil.
This, of course, I think is the third of many readings for assessments of sidewalks. We did not have an assessment board, necessity for an assessment board, I believe. So that's one less reading that you had to go through, an acceptance of it, generating one. We are anticipating doing a series of sidewalk improvements in the next few years. So I would hope that you get familiar with this process, those on council presently and those who will be there next year, because this is the major way we can actually get some of the sidewalks fixed. The alternative, of course, is, in many cases, is the owner to fix it themselves. They can follow specs as a procedure in our city code to do that. Many times they decide just not to do it, just be charged for it. So if we want to improve sidewalks, we have to feel comfortable about doing this structure. And that's what I'm hoping that this becomes more familiar to all council members. There will be assessment boards that, if somebody requests or contests the dollar amount, but that's all part of the process.
Other comments?
We could say that we had a pretty decent approach, a really systematic approach. I think that is reflected in the lack of appeals. And I think that it'll be a good process going forward. We are a walking city in large measure, and to the extent that we can improve the pathways, we've done Stewart Street, now we're doing this one. There will be some other streets where all of the substandard sidewalks will be replaced. And that will be, of course, up to you in the future.
Thank you. Any others? Okay. Ordinance 10311 is an ordinance affirming the mayor's execution of a subordination agreement with the city's mortgage with Travis Stevens and Laura Farrell for real estate located at 23 Hamlin Avenue. Member Sands.
Mr. President, usually City Council approves a subordination agreement for the city's mortgage on property, but this came up during Council's recess in August, and when you're dealing with a bank, it needs to be dealt with at that time. So the mayor went ahead and approved this subordination, and now this ordinance is asking our affirmation of that. This is a mortgage currently held by Travis Stevens and Laura Farrell for property on 23 Hanlon Avenue. Laura has requested to subordinate the mortgage in her, solely in her name, and so she's received a loan for purchase of the property from Ohio University Credit Union. The city's money has come from some money, CHIP money that was used to refurbish this property. And so what this does is it says that payments will be made to Ohio University Credit Union ahead of payments made to the city. And We've done this several times before.
Mayor Weil.
We haven't done that often. I think I've tried backtracking. I think the last one was 2004 or 5, looking at the old ordinances. Dale Tampke, I think, put it forward. Again, this has to do with the fact that it's CHIP money that from the grants that has a certain time limit that you can't just switch it out. She's going for a lower interest rate. She's taking ownership out of it herself, and it was mid-August, and I could have called a special session, but I don't know if I'd get enough people here to do it. So I decided to say, let's go ahead and do this. It is for the value of 80% of the property, which is a requirement if you look at the whereases. Again, it's coming through Hocking, Athens, Perry County Community Action, who does administration, and a recommendation to them. They watched this and make sure and got everything in line for it. So again, it's part of the CHIP grant process. It does not happen that often. I think I backtracked at least to 2000. I think there were only 2 occasions that I found of this. So it doesn't, it's not a regular activity. And again, timing was something that, this is the trouble with August being a recess for many people. Things still happen.
Any other comments? Moving on to ordinance 10411, an ordinance amending the 2011 appropriation ordinance. Member Sands.
Mr. President, this ordinance moves around a lot of funds into different, moves a lot of money into different funds within the city budget. These funds, none of them are actually out of money. This is from their unappropriated money. So all of these are fairly healthy, but we are near the end of the calendar year and near the end of the fiscal year, which is the same as a calendar year for us. And so these funds are being moved around. First of all, in Section 1, $15,000 to the Underage Drinkers Fund, $10,000 to the Recreation Fund, $30,000 to the parking garage for energy efficiency work that we've done there, $10,000 to Water Administration Fund, $10,000 to Sewer Maintenance Fund, $10,000 to Sewer Maintenance Fund, Sewer Administration Fund, I'm sorry, I read it wrong. The second 10,000 was the Sewer Admin Fund. And then in Section 2, we're further moving money around, decreasing the House Arrest Fund by $1,300 and decreasing the general fund from the police department by $30,000 and moving the money back into transaction class 200 and 300. Wait a minute, I got lost here. So we're moving money around within the police department, I'm sorry.
Yeah, from the TC 100s
Yes.
personnel down to TC 200s and 300s.
I'm sorry. Okay, so, again, this is end of the year appropriations of money for these funds, and we're just assuming that this would carry them through to the end of December.
Other comments on ordinance 104? Mayor Weil.
Several of these are actually gas fund lines, gasoline fund lines. Other ones are just money that we had excess, and we said we should move it here to make it more appropriate. The underage drinking fund in particular, of course, was a request from the judge. So energy efficiency, I'm trying to remember if that's for the lights and everything, perfection parts of it, I think. So we have, again, these are just bits and pieces. We're trying to anticipate so we don't have a rush towards the end. We're still only we just hit the third quarter of the year, but we've been telling everybody to look at their budgets, in particular the gas lines, fund lines, and supplies. Anticipate anything that's needed.
Okay. Ordinance 10511, an ordinance authorizing the auditor to reduce the 2011 year-end appropriations. Which member of Finance and Personnel wishes to speak to this? Member Sands.
Yeah, I will. This is a typo, I guess. It should be 2011. Mine says 2010. I don't know.
Mine says
Yeah.
2011.
Okay. in the title.
You got a bad one.
Okay.
Oh, you're reading from the ordinance itself.
Yeah, the auditor is authorized to reduce the 2011 appropriations.
We will recognize that as a typo and allow the clerk to change that on.
Either that or you can move to amend and have it read for the first time. Either way will be read for the first time.
Let's call it a typo, and we're reading it for the first time with 2011 in it.
Besides, you're already closing the two untaxed, right?
We just heard the state auditor saying that our city auditor is doing a heck of a job. One of the recommendations that was made in an audit several years ago was that the city auditor be allowed to zero out certain funds if they don't have appropriate necessity to maintain at that point. And so as we come to the end of the year, the fiscal year, we may see some money moved around again to zero out certain funds. And this just makes it easier for the auditors and the auditors of state to follow the money. Before we had bits and pieces and we had to put money in at the end of the beginning of the next calendar year, and it was kind of a rush, and this is the recommended way to handle things.
We'll list every fund that we want to reduce appropriations, and which we've done before.
And that is so cumbersome.
2 pages of account lines. The underage drinkers fund that we're just reducing by $1,300 would be an example of why we're doing that. The money that goes into that fund is from fees or fines to court, and we estimated that they would bring in a certain amount, and they're not bringing that much in. So the auditors want us to reduce the amount that's appropriated so that we don't spend more than we bring in. So we'll have to go through every account line in our system and make sure that we do that by the end of the year.
And by this authorization, council then doesn't act on every one of those. The auditor's office does.
Very good. Under resolution for first reading, Resolution 1411, a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. Member Sands.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask that we consider Resolution 1411 under suspension of the rules.
Second.
This is a resolution that comes to us from the county auditor, and it needs to be returned to them quickly. The time frame is short. I don't know what exactly it is. I know that Kathy negotiated a 15-day extension, and when was that?
Well, actually, the due date has always been October 1st, and we've really never gone through 3 readings because it usually comes the end of July or in August when council isn't meeting anyway. So we would have 2 readings in September, but we just got this a little over a week ago. And so I contacted the county auditor, and yes, they didn't put it in the letter, but they had some other things going on, and they were late getting these notices out. And so we had a week to prepare for this. Anyway, they said I could request an extension, so I did, just to be on the safe side, although they thought it wouldn't be a big deal. They knew that it had been sent out late. So anyway, I requested it and let them know that you weren't meeting till the 3rd, even though the actual due date's the 1st. So we do need suspension, and yes, we should be fine with the county.
I've never known us not to do suspension on this. Further discussion. All those in favor of suspending the rules on Resolution 14?
Aye.
Opposed? The rules are suspended.
Who has to
Member
sign it,
Sands.
too?
Mr. President, I move adoption of Resolution 14-11. Okay, this ordinance is a announcement from the county auditor to the city auditor of the amount of money that the county has collected for our share of property taxes within the county. And so we are due $803,542 in property tax money through this through this communication from the county auditor.
Some of this is TIF.
Other comments? All those in favor of adoption of Resolution 1411? Aye. Opposed? Resolution has been adopted. On to announcements and other business. Member Bain.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this point, I'd like to review something that council has been doing and make sure everyone understands it. In fact, we were just, with Kent's movement toward fracking, we had some discussions and discovered that the Bureau of Land Management, acting for the National Forest, had put out for bid a series of parcels for such leases, and the last day to protest was the 7th of October. So we worked a bit on the letter, which I probably will read. We are protesting as, well, you can take a check and see if you have questions afterwards. This is to Dr. John Lyon, who works with the Department of Interior Eastern Section. He's the Bureau of Land Management in Springfield, Virginia. And we would like to protest the Bureau of Land Management's notice of competitive oil and gas leases on 2,623.57 acres in Athens County. And those are listed then as legal entities. Now, we protest the agency's planned offering their publicly owned lands of the Wayne National Forest. Now I can add a little bit of an editorial comment. As a publicly owned land, they are subject to NEPA, a National Environmental Policy Act, and it seems, in fact we know, that they did not do an environmental assessment to really check this out. And the thing that is really frightening to me, I spent the weekend looking at these maps and saying, oh goodness, the first map, the first parcel is upstream from the Nelsonville water supply. The second map shows two parcels, one on Monday Creek and another one in what is called Minker's Run. I have a certain amount of attachment to the landscape in Minker's Run, and I really feel bad about that, but we're really talking water quality here. And then the third map shows a very large parcel in the vicinity of the Leax water system, just below New Floodwood, just below Movies 9, and across roughly in the vicinity of the Road 4 that was always flooded just until recently. So that's where the 2,000 acres are. They're all upstream from us, which is pretty terrible. We say Athens City Council, Athens City, Ohio is a statutory city that relies upon a riparian aquifer as the sole source for its municipal drinking water system. That aquifer is downstream from the parcels above. We are concerned that the leasing, drilling, and operation of the potential wells in the Utica Shale will have a deleterious effect on our sole source municipal water supply. It must be noted that we have a very meager water supply in general in unglaciated Ohio, and our water source is inextricably bound to the health of the Hocking River. And then I gave a reference when I was writing this out to a map, and it's a really interesting map because 95% of the water is drawn from the river, and it's just like in a set of beads along the Hocking River, exactly where those leases are, and it's amazing. We are also concerned that leasing and drilling of these parcels could negatively impact human health, thank you, Christine, wildlife, habitat, and other recreational enjoyment. I didn't put thank you, Christine. The BLM and Forest Service relied upon the 2006 Forest Plan in leasing for this new technology, and it does not live up to the letter and spirit of the National Environmental Policy Act, that all major federal actions assess the impact of the actions on the environment, and I would say, and the environment on the project as well. We are concerned that the proposed technology and, in fact, the Utica shale exploitation are so new that the negative impacts on our water source are real and must be considered. In 2006, the BLM and Forest Service rely on an environmental assessment that does not even address the question of high-volume horizontal drilling of shale formations such as Utica. And this is a highly significant omission, as the Athens County parcels offered for lease sit atop Utica Shale and include water sources that the city of Athens ultimately relies upon for its drinking supply. Given the experiences of our adjacent state, Pennsylvania, in the exploitation of Marcellus Shale, we request that the Forest Service determination be reconsidered for the parcels upstream from our municipal plant. The required NEPA work and the potential mitigation must be completed before the leasing process. We trust that you will see that the 2006 work is inadequate to protect our environment. We request the withdrawal of the lease sale until proper environmental analysis is conducted and our water supply is protected. Okay, so that's what we're sending forward, and I think we have a number of other people interested in that. This is public land, so it's our land, and they should follow the rules, plain and simple. Now, the law has found another hook for the future, and so everybody signed, and we're sending this forward, and at least make them do the job correctly and maybe do mitigations that will solve the problem for us. But Alana, you want to talk about what you found?
Sure. As Nancy mentioned, just a hope for the future, hopefully the future pretty soon, as we deal with this as quickly as we can. Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 743, regulates utilities in the state, electric, gas, and water. And there's a subsection in there, Section 25, so 743.25. And this is in regard to the jurisdiction of municipal corporations to prevent water pollution. Then it mentions prohibition against polluting streams and other water sources. But the last sentence in this section states that the jurisdiction of a municipal corporation to prevent the pollution of its water supply and to provide a penalty, therefore, shall extend 20 miles beyond the municipal corporation limits. And so hopefully we'll be able to use this state law in a local ordinance, or reference this in a local ordinance that may in some way relate to this type of activity upstream from our water supply.
It's our fallback, right?
I'm sorry?
If they don't do the job correctly, we will invoke that anyway, won't we?
I would
I
hope so.
think anybody who's from outside who lives in Arlington, Virginia, possibly wouldn't know how really poor in unglaciated Ohio the water sources are. But we're going to make them aware of it.
Other comments? Thank you, Nancy. Are there other announcements or other business? Yes.
We'd like a
Again,
Finance and Personnel Committee meeting to talk about insurance. next
Sure.
week. Jim
Next
and I.
week. Other committee meetings?
I'd like
Planning and
to
Development?
talk about sign regulations, please.
Great.
And could we also look at the HUDs and sizes, just for the heck of it?
Next week?
Yeah. Covering some stuff from the previous zoning ordinance, okay. I mean, just to start thinking about it. Okay.
Absolutely. Any others? Okay. Now on to an opportunity for citizens to speak on any legislative items or city services that we did not cover on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone wishing to speak before City Council tonight? Oh, come on. Lorraine.
I was hoping to speak on this issue with BLM.
You are welcome to speak for 3 minutes. While you're coming to the microphone, this is not just for Lorraine, this is what we say to all people coming before council, that council rules allow that any citizen is able to speak for 3 minutes, and we ask that you state your name and address. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Lorraine McCosker. I live at 59 Elmwood in Athens. I'm very concerned about this BLM proposal to extract gas from the Wayne National Forest. There is a proposal for 3,300, but only 2,600 of it is in the Athens County. Some of the concerns with this are that Ohio and federal regulations permit unlimited water withdrawals on site, long-term waste disposal in open pits, burial of toxic waste on site, reinjection of liquid waste in wells that are not designed for hazardous waste, flaring of gas, and volatilization rather than capture of highly toxic volatile organic compounds. According to the U.S. EPA, 2 to 4 million gallons of water are typically used per frac in each well. Estimates for the amount of fracturing fluid that is recovered during the first 2 weeks after a fracture range from 10 to 40% of the original fluids that are injected into the well. EPA estimates that 15,000 to 60,000 gallons of the total fracturing fluid consists of chemical additives per frac. And there are also chemicals that are added during the drilling process, so it's not just during the fracking, but it's also during the drilling process. Of great concern here is the fact that our federal lands are supposed to be regulated by NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act, and hydraulic fracturing has been exempted from many of the environmental laws that were placed in Clean Water, Safe Water Drinking Act, and the Clean Air Act in the 1970s. So this is really a violation. And in fact, there is no record of this or mention of this on the Wayne National Forest website. So in the past, whenever the Wayne introduces an action, normally you get something in the mail if you're signed up, or they post it for comments, and not with this. We just found out about this through another forest organization. So I'm very happy that the city is addressing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? The next item on our agenda is an executive session that has been requested by the law director to discuss with council pending and threatened litigation before the city. For us to go into an executive session, there are limited reasons, of which this is one, but it takes a roll call and a request for those that will be there. Member Butler, you've gotten very good at this over the years. Would you take it from here?
I request that we enter into executive session and include the mayor, the auditor, law director, and all of council. Aye.
Second. Aye.
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 We will take, the clock up there shows about 11 minutes after. Why don't we go until about 25 after? So those here may ask questions of their council members. But when that clock right up there says 25 after, we're going to ask that you leave. Is that fair, Mr. Settis? Okay. Thank you very much.